Start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is to approve minutes from prior meetings. We've got November 9th and November 16th and October 16th and November 29th, all of this year. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes and have any corrections? We're going to start with the November 9th of 2022. Any problems with them?
I'm not a good proofer, so you
Yeah.
shouldn't ever ask me.
No, they looked okay. I mean, I read them kind of fast, but it seemed, there was nothing really out of order. I'll make a motion to approve the November 9th planning item and work session meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The monthly board meeting of November 16th, 2022. Any corrections on that? I'll make a motion to approve the November 16th, 2022 minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
October 19th of 2022, monthly board meeting. Any corrections? I'll make a motion to approve them as they're printed. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? And the special meeting of November 29th, which I did not attend. Does anyone have corrections of those minutes? Does someone want to make a motion to approve them?
I'll make the motion.
Someone? All in favor? Great. We've got the Southampton Town Police Department report, monthly report. You already did it? You did it, yeah, okay. Old business, Alex Matheson. I actually have the right, I have the right,
He's there. Just
right agenda this week. Hi, Alex, you want to speak to the board?
Yes, hi, Mayor, how are you? Hello, trustees, nice to see you all. Thank you. Oh,
Just before we start, I have to recuse myself from this subject.
Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Sorry.
sounds good. Thank you, Marilyn. So basically the reason I requested a return visit with the village board, we had many conversations with the prior mayor and the then board, some of which of course overlaps with this board, to talk about the Peter Matheson Center. And as I think most or all of you are aware, my father, the late author and environmental advocate, died in 2014. For tax reasons, the family had to sell the property at the time, but the property at 527 Bridge Lane, which is on the corner of Bridge Lane and Sag Main behind the big privet hedges, where I was born and raised, and my father lived for 55 years and wrote nearly all of his 30 odd books, was sold to another person not long after my father's death. And the property has remained unimproved since then. In fact, it's actually in a very bad state of disrepair and is basically grown wild, and the house has holes in the roof and so on. So for a time, we approached the current owner, Mr. Jeff Benjamin, about the possibility of buying back the property from him, using in part CPF money from the town of Southampton in order to establish what we are calling the Peter Matheson Center, which would be a quiet retreat place which would be used most of the year for a small number of writers, probably about 6 writers at any given time, to come and use the property to write. There will be a writing center, and studio based on a donated barn by Paul Rogers, also a former member of Sagaponack. And then occasionally it could be used for meditation retreats and also for a small group of environmental leaders to come and brainstorm about some of the world's most challenging, pressing environmental issues. And of course, there's no shortage of those, unfortunately. So that was the idea. But we wanted the village's blessing before we went to the town to seek CPF funding, and we got it. We spent a couple meetings with the mayor, with the attorney for the village, and also with the village trustees. I think at least one, maybe two meetings with the trustees as a whole to kind of propose this vision and what we thought was the best and most beneficial use of the property. And we got the blessing of the mayor and the village board of trustees in the form of a letter which I sent to Rhodey a couple of weeks ago, basically saying, we have met with the members of the Peter Matheson Center. They've heard some of our interests and concerns about parking and how things can be minimized to minimize the disruption to local residents and so on. But those things have been done, and we therefore bless this project and encourage the town of Southampton, the CPF, to consider funding and so on. So the reason I'm back before you is twofold. One, because it's been 2 years, a little over 2 years, since the trustees signed that letter. So even though we assume that it still stands and valid, and that the trustees were acting on behalf of the village, which is an incorporated entity, that it still stands, it's still valid and so on. But nonetheless, we think it would be helpful to just have kind of a updated affirmation, reaffirmation from the village, if you guys are so inclined. And then secondly, there is one change to the proposal, which is a significant change, but in the ways that would affect the village, benefit the village, affect residents. The proposal hasn't changed one iota. But the one kind of symbolic change is that the owner who actually signed a letter of intent or a willingness to sell with the Southampton town 3 years ago decided this past summer that after all, he's decided that he may want to develop the property himself, put up a new house there, and so on. So unfortunately, he withdrew his offer to sell it to us. So we have been looking for alternative properties and are very, very keen to stay in Sagaponack, because in the end, obviously, it would be ideal to create this, establish this center in the very place, the originally 6 acres, now 3 acres, where he actually lived for 55 years and wrote all these books and had a lot of interesting people around the dinner table and so on. But not wanting to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. The reality is he also wrote those 30-odd books in Sagaponack. This is where he lives. It's where he made a home for over half a century. And there are other properties that are available in the village of Sagaponack where we could establish the center. So really the second reason to come back and just have you guys reaffirm your support is just to kind of acknowledge that this Peter Matheson Center may take place at a different property. I also want to, before I continue, just welcome John Halsey from the Peconic Land Trust, who's joined us. And PLT has been a really critical member of our PMC efforts since the very beginning. They've been our fiscal sponsor until we just recently got our nonprofit status under 501c3 status under federal IRS laws. And John has been a critical advisor to help us navigate these various processes with the village, with the town, and so on, and really just super helpful. So John, welcome.
Good to be here.
And just so you know, John, I'm giving them kind of an update on why we're here and why we returned, and the essential 2 reasons being, one, because it's been 2+ years since we got that letter of affirmation, and secondly, because one thing has changed in the 2 years since we got that letter of support from the village, which is we're looking at other properties other than my dad's original property. And the way I characterize that is saying it is a significant difference in that it's obviously not my father's property, but in terms of the potential benefit and impact on the village itself and on the residents who live around that area, there's zero difference because it's still the same idea, same programming, same number of people that we're envisioning for the site and so on. So in any case, hold on for 1 second. Yeah, I'm in the middle of a presentation. This is when you cannot do that, okay? Just give me a few minutes, okay? In any case, where was I? I'm distracted by my 7-year-old son who wants me to look at his drawing. But in any case, where was I? Hold on.
It's the same place.
Yeah, so in any place, yes, so that's what I was saying, which is unfortunately, the current owner of 527 Bridge Lane decided not to sell last summer, so we started to look at other properties. And the one other thing I wanted to say before kind of summarizing our proposal here is that, and I've forgotten again, forgive me. One thing I wanted to say. Oh, yes, thank you. In our letter that we sent to the mayor and to the board, we kind of threw out the idea of the property. I've forgotten the actual number, but the property on Sag Main that is owned currently by Peter Smith. And that is one of several properties that we've been looking at in Sagaponack. We like it especially because it's completely renovated. It's in excellent condition. We could actually start programming there fairly shortly, in fairly short order after acquiring the property, because again, it's in good condition and good working condition. And it's kind of ideally suited for creating this kind of programming and center. But there are other properties as well. And I really want to make it clear that we're not really looking for the village to reaffirm the Peter Madison Center at that particular property, but rather just to reaffirm it in general as a cultural place that would be beneficial to the village of Sagaponack, and that could be located on that property, on one or more other properties that might become available, or even, who knows, my dad's original property if the current owner changes his mind and decides to sell. So it's not particular to that property, but I use the Peter Smith property for illustrative purposes, just to kind of give you an idea of how we might do this at this point in time. So I think that's all I want to say just by way of introduction, Mr. Mayor, and happy to answer any questions.
I think I was about 9 years old. I spent the summer with my grandmother. Her house was directly across from the Simmons estate, which when your father bought it, and she handed me Under the Mountain Wall and said, read it. And I took that book in a dictionary and struggled through it eventually.
Well, that would be you and just about everybody else. My dad was not an easy writer to read. His writing and his prose were very dense. There's a lot of kind of technical stuff in there and arcane subject matter, but it was rewarding if you were able to stick with it and get through them.
Sagaponack Village is zoned residential, purely residential, and have you investigated the legal implications of what you're suggesting?
I have, yes. Actually, that was mainly what Mayor Lockheim and the attorney at the time, I don't recall whether what his name was, and maybe he's still the mayor. Sorry, the village attorney. But we looked at that issue, Mr. Mayor, very carefully. And John Halsey could probably speak more eloquently to it. But in a nutshell, we would require kind of a code change from the village, but the village was willing to make that code change, and they went through it with the village attorney present and agreed that it would not be a significant change to make. Now, it just the idea would be to make sure that it was kind of narrowly defined so that it didn't create a precedent. So suddenly there's 10 such institutions lining Main Street, up and down Main Street. So but there was no concern about that at the time. We did have a conversation about it because they wanted to make sure it was doable and viable, but the conclusion was it was not a major hurdle at all.
Any other questions?
Yeah, am I allowed to ask where the other properties might be that you say you're thinking of?
There's another property, and again, I've forgotten the number. Marilyn, who's a friend of mine personally, and also has been helpful in advising us, may know, but it's Katrina Butler's property, which is a more or less empty lot, pretty
Karina.
close to the.
Karina.
What's that?
Karina.
Oh,
Karina.
Karina Butler, sorry, forgive me. And we're aware that property has been available for quite a long time, and but we have had some preliminary conversations with her, and she expressed pretty strong interest, a very strong interest in this idea. So yes, that's the second current property that is a potential property and location for this place. But our priority is really that it's in Sacaponic. Folks have thrown out the idea, well, what about out in Springs or some other part of the East End? And we feel very strongly that once we kind of leave Sacaponic, the connection is much more tenuous. We really think that, Sacaponic was where my father made his home for a reason. He loved the light there. He loved the agriculture and the farmland and the ocean. And it really was kind of an inspiration for his writing and for the many, many trips he did around the world. This was his kind of base of operation in his home. And, it's conceivable we could do it in some other village or town, but I think Sacaponic is where we have our heart set.
Anything else? Thank you for the presentation. We'll take a look at it.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you. And just to clarify, we're just simply looking for kind of a reaffirmation. We're not looking for any additional support from the village, just to kind of reaffirm the support for the Peter Maston Center at my father's old property or some other Sacaponic location.
Right. Okay. Yep. Got it.
Okay.
Thank
Terrific.
you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy holidays.
Yeah, enjoy the holidays.
You too. Cute little boy.
Let's see. Employment policy and salary schedule amendments. I think everybody's, I know I told everybody about it. It's a move to catch up with the inflation that's happened. I assume Dawn did the last budget based on, trying to think what year statistics, and things have kind of gone haywire since then, and cost of living and so on. And that was the basis for the proposal. Any questions about it? I don't have it in front of me anymore, but no, I mean.
No questions.
No
Okay.
questions.
So I'll make a motion, resolve that, is that right, Charlie? Am I doing right? Okay.
Yep.
Got to talk to the boss. Resolve that the Board of Trustees does hereby approve amendments to village employment policies and 2022-2023 village salary schedule as presented effective January 8th of 2022. Do I have a second?
Wait, 2022?
23.
It's our budget year.
23. There we go.
23. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yes, you're correct.
Second.
No, 24. No, 23.
23.
Yeah, okay.
Everyone gets that 1 month leeway, making the changes on their checkbooks.
Right, okay. Somebody seconded?
Maryland. did.
Marilyn, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Yes, retro.
Amendment to the vehicle and traffic code. Some of it's complicated, and Bill and I went over it and still haven't figured out exactly what to do. One tiny little piece of it is we had agreement on. You want to do the tiny piece first? Or you
Yeah,
want-
either one. We decided that we won't pass anything this month, but next month we'll revisit changing the parking regulations, right?
Yeah,
Seasonal,
okay.
seasonal parking.
The speed,
Right.
the speed, we did discuss the speed on Town Line Road going south from Daniels to the ocean. To make that, amend that to be a 15-mile-an-hour recommended speed.
That's a good idea. With people walking there
Yeah.
to the beach, yeah.
You know, it's a, you know, it's a chance for the people that are at the end of the road there to know we're not totally against them having.
What
their
is it
homes
now,
there.
20?
Right now, it's 30 coming back, right?
30 going north and 25 going south.
Wow, that's not
Wow,
weird.
that's crazy because we travel the town, those towns.
Is that sign still in here? It was,
Yeah, like the sign.
oh, there it is. Yeah, narrow road, 15 miles an hour. That was somewhere in East Hampton. I saw that. And I thought, why can't we do that? So,
And it's the 15th, I think you said it's gonna be white. So people
oh, it's
listen to
whatever the
it.
town.
I showed that particular sign to Charlie McArdle, and he said, yes, he could put that in as long as we put it in the code. So. if you
Whether it
adopt-
be white or yellow that they're talking about.
I know what they're talking about. I just said that I showed that particular sign to Charlie.
If it's yellow, if it's yellow, they, people can't be written a ticket for it.
Right.
That's a recommended.
And they
speed.
know that.
Well, yeah,
I don't know. Saw something.
I will ask Charlie if the
Make it
yellow
white.
sign could be white, and then I mean, that would work, I think.
I actually wonder if that's just is an incorrect example that's actually there, because speed is always black and white.
yeah.
No, it
Warning
isn't.
sign, well, warning signs on ahead, when it's warning you to in advance, and you say, like, if it's 30 and it says upcoming school limit 25 and an arrow, that tells you in advance, that's a warning sign, not a limit sign. Under the highway
Ah,
manuals, yeah. So that may be the example of a warning sign as opposed to a speed limit sign.
okay.
You know, if there's an adjustment in your speed coming up, they'll give you a yellow warning sign ahead of time. But the highway manual.
Yeah, I'll check with
Yeah.
Charlie, and if this is, then we would just change that to the black and white sign.
Correct. Correct.
Right,
Because on Waynescott, Maine, there's a 20-mile-an-hour yellow sign. And it's like, I think everybody knows they don't really have to listen to that sign.
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
I suppose.
So yes, your resolution.
Okay, I just gotta find it. Oh, there we go. Resolution adoption of other speed zones. It'll be chapter 215-10.
Other things. Okay.
Whereas Village Code, section 215-36.1 authorizes amendment of Village Code, chapter 215 by the resolution, and I'll just deem this read, the rest of it. I'll make this motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Um,
Aye. Okay, great. Might make somebody happy down there. It always is amazing to drive to a dead-end road and have people going like crazy. You
Yeah.
know, it's just beyond belief that. Anyway.
I have another proposal. I don't know if this is the right spot to put it in,
Sure.
but I would propose that a stop sign be placed east and west, or north, east and west on Daniels Lane at the intersection of Fairfield Lane. There's quite a dip down there and a little cottage on the corner. If you really have to kind of get out there, and the cars, mostly the service trucks are flying down that hill. If there was a stop sign there, it would slow down.
Yeah.
I know personally, my dog almost got hit twice in the last month because he didn't stop for it properly. So if we could, I would propose to put a stop sign on Daniels Lane, eastbound at Fairfield intersection, and westbound at Fairfield intersection.
Sounds good to me.
Another one that you and I run into is we put the sign by Gretchen Topping's house there, but they come over the bridge and come down Cemetery Lane in the morning commute, and they breeze around that corner in the wrong lane. If we stop them
Oh, yeah.
in front of, right in front of where you grew up, okay?
Right, yeah.
Before they turn the corner onto Gibson there, Cemetery Lane is so narrow. What people do in the morning commute they have to go, they go wide out.
Yeah, because they got trailers in the back.
Right.
Right.
But if they were forced to stop, they wouldn't be continually moving around that corner so
Yeah.
wide in the wrong lane.
That would be a good spot.
They
Yeah.
still probably have to go wide when there's no car in the way.
When there's no car in the way, but
Well,
there's
they
been
still-
so
they still-
many near misses there.
Right. Yeah.
And
So-
actually, we lost a pole there maybe 5 years ago in that section too.
I will do.
And trees. I forgot about the trees. They'll hit anything.
I'll do a resolution for January, for these true stop signs. if you want.
Yeah.
The other piece of this, and I don't know if you want to discuss it or just let the board know, the seasonal parking rules and regulations that we had talked about last week, and I had done the proposed resolution for, that's in your book, removes the seasonal parking on Fairfield Pond Lane, Erica's Lane, Holden Court, and all of Daniels. And then I added back in, again, it's a proposal, to include seasonal parking from intersection of Gibson down to Fairfield, and, or if you wanted to do some footage from that intersection, and then down at Peters Pond Lane, again, some footage on either side of there. So,
What happened with Crestview? Did we leave that the way it is?
yeah, we haven't touched that one.
Yeah, I didn't think you did, but I didn't see the words, so I.
Just the ones that you felt maybe could be removed without any adverse
Yeah.
effect.
Well, you
Bill and I are
can.
gonna work on it,
However,
right?
Hmm?
Bill, you and I are gonna work
Yeah,
on it. Yeah, Bill and I are gonna work on it.
Bill and I are gonna work on that because we're kind of throwing out the idea of making the, like, for example, the no parking on Daniels at Peters Pond. It may be sufficient just to make it 1,500 feet either side of Peters Pond. After that, they're probably not gonna, that's a quarter of a mile, so after that, they're not gonna park unless they walk through the Christmas tree farm. You know, they'll be far enough away from Peters Pond that they won't park there. And there's really nothing there to block for a car to park further than 1,500 feet.
So there are that many cars down there in the summer?
In the
Well, there were for years, but they have not
They
been.
were, they're not, I don't think there's any violations going on in Daniels Lane now. Because it was posted, but
Because of the signs.
yeah,
There used to
because of the
be
sign,
Cars on both sides of Bridge Lane all the way to the bridge.
Yeah.
People would walk that.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Bridge Lane.
No, no, no.
I'm talking
Oh,
about
we
this
had a
lane.
lot of
Yeah.
The
I
length,
know about
the
Bridge Lane.
distance that
I don't
people
know
will
I
go.
think we have to leave Bridge Lane posted as is.
And you need to leave posted past, well, but you did include that past Tinka,
Yeah,
because they literally couldn't get out of the horse farm.
right.
And I recall on Bridge Lane, just as an example, that the farmers couldn't get into the field until we put those signs up. So we don't want to block people from their farm businesses.
Right.
So.
So we'll revisit
Right.
the final on the parking. But the stop signs, I think. we
I
can-
think that's a good idea.
yeah.
Anything that can slow that commuter hour, morning and night down. And the early morning one is a lot of the time where people go out and do their walks early morning, or their jogs or their bike rides. And I think it would be important to secure 2 more spots to slow them.
Okay, good.
In terms of discussion items, I've heard little blips about it once in a while, possibly as 1 monthly meeting. And just think of that. I don't think we need 2 meetings a month all the time. If we have a lot going on, maybe a lot of planning issues, maybe we take more, but I don't know, any feeling about that?
In the
Sounds
winter
good.
months, it sounds good. I mean, because we're a lot slower this time of year
Yeah.
too. So just a thought. I agree with you.
I agree.
I mean, we could try it for a while. We can always go back to another 2 meetings. But we'll just think about it. We'll talk about it next month and see what you want to do. I mean, for the moment, I think we've got probably people who want to show up for the next planning board meeting, right, Brody? I mean, some of those guys will come back.
Yeah. We've got one coming
Just
back.
one.
And we've kind of told them, so
We're not
that
sure.
date, yeah, I agree
Yeah.
with you. You don't
Not
want
sure
to.
they're gonna be back in January, but
Yeah.
You can always have the planning board meeting as a standing meeting, that first Wednesday,
Yeah,
and then have the board meeting on the second Wednesday, or, second and third, I should say, right? And then, if there is no planning meeting at the board, nothing on the agenda, at that board of trustees meeting, and say, we're not gonna have the first
okay.
next monthly meeting, we're not gonna have one.
Well, it's right, and your logic makes a lot of sense in relation to voting too. That we do our voting at the second meeting, not,
Correct, that's the official board of trustees meeting.
that's what we.
So
keep
your
the
planning
second
board
one.
doesn't sit very often, your board of trustees does, because you have to have local laws and do the finances and all those kind of things, right? As long as it works with your timing, your bill payment. That's really, if the warrants get signed, that's good, but you can always announce, say, look, there's not gonna be a planning board session in March.
Right.
Okay.
Well, zoning board for months had issues and they got a little hotter this year, but we had a year or so there that they weren't meeting very regularly.
Right, yep.
Architecture board is always going to have another gate permit or another pergola,
Yeah,
nor
Actually, I went to the last AHRB meeting and I
the
asked,
one this past month.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was on Zoom.
kind of torturous.
Yeah, it was long.
But afterwards, I asked the board members who were there in person about maybe banning gates and make it where if somebody wants a gate, they go to the zoning board because it takes so much
half the
time of
meeting.
theirs.
Yeah.
With this gate thing. And in general, like the main drag historic district, gates are prohibited anyway and just extended out to the rest of the village.
I think that it's becoming a more important problem because the UPS trucks and the FedEx trucks and sometimes the agriculture of the lawn mowing trucks and stuff, landscaping can't get in because these gates, we used to tell them X amount of feet, but now they're longer. And we used to say be back this amount. Well, the UPS truck is bigger since we passed that law. And that gentleman, not this past Monday, but 3 weeks ago, said on that flag lot road that led to 3 houses at the end, if all these houses had gates and he was the only one that didn't, the only possible way for a UPS truck to turn around was in his area. And I think we have to start thinking about the fact that we've limited ambulance, fire trucks. I know they have those latched releases and all that, but it's becoming like every road is full of gates.
that's still fun.
Exclusive community. Yeah, I mean, is that something?
Well, if we took that off their agenda, they would be able to move so much more efficiently. Right now, they get stuck with a gate company, not the owner, who's asking them to design the gate to our rules. I think,
And they're not allowed to design the gate. You
They're
have
not allowed to
go
do
there
that.
and get comments, yeah.
no, so I think their time would be more efficient. Zoning,
They'd still have to go back for the AHRB. If they got the variance to put the gate in, they'd still have to go get that, unless you don't want, unless you say in code that they don't have to get AHRB approval. That once they get approval by the.
oh, once they get the variance from zoning, no, but you wouldn't want that because you would have the metal Italian filigree gate.
Well, that's what I'm
Right.
saying, it's not gonna
Right.
eliminate anything from the AHRB, it will only add to the zoning board.
oh, yeah, 100%, that's exactly, procedurally, that's exactly correct, unless this board wants to say, hey, look, you're not gonna get a gate unless you apply to the zoning board and you meet these XYZ
Well,
criteria.
there is very specific criteria in the code right now on how to build a gate.
They still don't get it.
You have distance in the center, you have distance on the end, and the only variable is the materials that they use in between. There's even the distance between the slats. So it's very specific in the code of the gate that you can build, the specifics. So they either, it's just another
But if we got rid of it, it would slow down. There would be a big push in the beginning of confusion. But wouldn't it slow down, Brian, the number?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say, yeah, I would say unless you meet these extra criteria, put it in good reason, almost like along the same lines of criteria for a special permit.
Yeah.
And just say the general rule is bad. If you need it to have it for X, Y, and Z reasons, crops, this, that, other thing, we can make some special permit criteria, that's probably gonna knock out 90% of your applications.
And sometimes the architecture board has a gate applicant for 45 minutes, because I'll time them out of boredom and doodles, and they're getting redesigned while the board is trying their hardest to talk them out of it. So if our feeling in SAG is that we don't see a need for this, and every time they tell us that they need it for security and safety, they should listen to your report, because that's not changing your report over the last 14, 15 years I've listened to the police report. We don't have a high crime community.
There are a few larcenies in there though as well.
There were a couple of but I mean, a lot of times they're stealing the cars next door to my house, It's a bad joke.
Put your key fobs in.
I don't take mine. But initially, I'm just saying that their time is wasted.
Yeah.
In that
It is.
meeting.
And something's broken there when it's taking up that much time on a meeting agenda.
The other thought I had once, but it might not be a good thought to go along with what Bill said. We put the rule in place, I like Bill's idea, and then we also say that we're only going to listen to this 3 meetings a year. So you pick dates, you say every third of the year or every quarter of the year. If you don't like our rule, those are the only dates you get to talk
Good
about.
idea.
Remember, I worked in a school. You're always relying, so in a school. But
It's definitely possible.
get.
In March, we do gates.
Yeah.
In September, we do pools.
A long meeting.
And in December, we do pickleball courts.
So we do the zoning board of appeals for gate.
Yeah.
They're just prohibited.
Yep.
Zoning board of appeals.
If you meet certain criteria, which I can draft up and see what the board thinks.
I don't know, you want to pay him to write that?
Sure,
I like
Oh, okay,
it.
here we go.
I don't
Decision.
mind getting rid of gates.
Yeah,
They just don't look like us. And then when these vehicles stick out, and some of them don't have beepers,
oh, yeah.
I don't know. I think it would be a safety good decision. And if you looked at the pergola, application, that went in seconds, and the darn gates go on.
Yeah.
So I'll draft up something with a ban and on a variance request to the zoning board if you meet certain criteria. Otherwise, they're considered presumptively banned in the village of Sagaponic.
Right. Okay, sounds good.
I like it.
We can't do anything about the existing
Yeah, that's too late. The horse is out of the gate.
ones. Yeah. Literally.
Listen, we got a whole bunch of financial stuff. I hope somebody looked at it. I did. Don't understand any of it, but yeah.
I thank Rhodey's existence every day when I read the financials. Every time I read them, I thanks him, P.F. Rhodey.
We have warrants to approve. Let's see. Let's see, I think we assigned them all. We just have to make a resolution to approve them. So tell me if I'm saying the right thing. All I've got in front of me is this, make a proposal to approve the warrant, charge the general funds in the amount of $52,688.67.
So, a second.
All in favor? Propose paying via planning and trust and agency, an amount of $4,739.80. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Capital Highway Fund, paying out the amount of $4,860.00. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And paying from trust and agency an amount of $2,500. Do I have a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I guess you're up, Lisa, for boards.
I don't have any reports. I reported on both of the boards last week, and that new houses and some of the discussion items that were on Monday's meeting, they were trying to get it done rather than doing it the day after Christmas by moving it, are coming back next month. So there was nothing there that I could, point to exactly. There was, I have to look, a house under discussion, which truthfully, it has to be tucked in somewhere because I wasn't quite getting where it was in relation. 683 Daniels, the two old structures. So I thought I would look at it and get it. I could see from the pictures that it looked like an older structure, but Tom White did say that it was not on our historical listing. But it was a discussion item.
Yeah.
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 Well, see, I missed, I wasn't gonna
Yeah,
get
it's
it.
shaped like an L.
Okay. Anyway, it was a discussion item, so it's actually not on the agenda for decision making yet. The only quick thing I would like to say is, in the springtime, do you want to revisit if Town Line Road is in need of paving? Possibly trying to connect, we could maybe go visit our road person, Mr. Lynch over in East Hampton.
Our engineering firm has a working relationship with
Oh,
them.
good.
And he already
Well,
made
Stephen's a
a
nice
number of inquiries about it. And the final statement from Lynch was that he has no plans whatsoever in the near future to do paving.
That road's a mess at the
Yeah,
end.
well, that's, I mean, at some point, maybe we would,
I think at some point you might have to approach.
do our half of it or something.
Yeah, that's true. Bless you.
But that's what we're going to explore.
Are we going to possibly north Saguenay do that section in the spring meeting? If we're lucky?
You mean Sag Road?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna wait until the new year, and Bill and I were gonna take a look at it. Yeah, that and Narrow Lane East are both considered bad condition.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to listen to an engineer look at something, and I had no idea that Masterson did kind of a, cut corner job in one sense, not putting much asphalt down, just probably so he could cover more of the town, which makes sense. And it was done, I think, maybe 2004. I know it's the last road, I think, that was done before it became a village.
It was.
So it's done pretty well over that amount of time, but he looked at it and said, it's only, I forget if it's 2 inches of asphalt, and we've been doing 3.5. So.
Well, I think everybody's been really appreciative since we fixed roads and put in, John always would correct me on this, I'm saying the pedestrian passing lane, we'll call it. Shoulder. He liked the word shoulder, but I think it has been helpful. And even people who didn't like the idea in the beginning, I saw one of them yesterday walking with her daughter
Oh, wow.
in it. So, and she did call. So I'm happy they're using it,
Yeah, no, I mean, I like it personally.
I use them, yeah. And I
Also,
know-
to give you an update on the Christmas tree.
Oh,
They did get the H-frame was put out there by the electrician last week. PSE&G was there today, the inspector, and then the next piece is to get the meter mounted. I begged and told them I would ask for a Christmas miracle to get it in place by Friday, but I don't know if it's gonna happen.
But we're
We have
this
bad weather
close.
coming, yeah. Well, I have a backup plan. I left a message with Christian Topping to clear. I don't have Gretchen's phone number. Gretchen did casually offer via Christian that we could plug in for a couple days. So I think we have a backup, but we don't want to tell them, PSEG, that. Lee and myself and Erin, my daughter, and her husband and 2 boys, we got the lights up, and Roger donated a extension cord to get it to the place that hopefully will be hooked up. So we're almost there, but it's a miracle, maybe.
That's so nice.
We're ready to roll.
We'll be ready next year.
Thank you. So anyway, I mean, we got a lot done in relation, the hardest thing is, thank you, Rhodey, for doing, the hardest thing is dealing with PSEG. It's, Lee and I could just talk and get someone to do it, and Roger would back one of his trucks up and pick up the tree that was cut. We could do that part, but boy, that electric part was difficult. Thank you for coming and doing it.
We're not done yet.
I know we're not there.
Well, let's see, we've been through most of the committee reports. Marilyn, is there anything going on? I guess they did tree removals and stuff.
Right. I don't have anything ready to report.
Okay.
You just also know that I did speak with Ann Welker yesterday, and she knows the pond is high, but she doesn't want to let it out yet because of the storm that's coming. So they're probably going to let it out next week.
Oh, good.
If that storm comes, we're
Well, I think the
going to
storm
be
let,
across the road.
yeah, I think the storm let some in last week, so.
Yeah, no,
As long as she's aware of it.
Yep, she's
it
aware.
might go right across because they're predicting a lot of wind. We'll have to see.
Right, I mean, you never know, because I know why she doesn't want to open it before, because then it closes up
Closes
quickly.
back
But
up.
then if you don't open it, then all the neighbors have flooded basements.
Yes, they do.
So that's really not.
I bet that's not a Christmas present anyone ordered.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping it skirts us.
So the next meeting is Wednesday, January 11th. Any questions or comments from the floor? Oh, all right.
Uh-oh, she's got a paper.
What are we on?
Identify
There's
this.
nobody.
Okay.
Molly is on the.
No, I just wanted to say in light of Alex's contribution today about, Lee Foster. I think, one less mansion in Sagaponic is a good thing. I certainly hope that whatever they are working on desperately to get something located would be a good thing. And Peter Smith's property is, that would be a win-win both sides, I think, because it's a start. And then if they could put that together for the center, so I just wanted to sort of mention that, one less mansion is a good thing. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Lee.
Okay.
I have just one
Oh,
question.
yeah.
The Christmas tree replacement. We're talking about getting rid of the disease.
Any bids would,
Does the bid go
proposals goes
here or to the tree committee?
tree committee.
Goes to the tree.
No,
committee.
so it starts here.
So what I do is the tree committee tells me what they want, what kind of trees they want, how many they want, and the caliber of the tree. And then I put that out to the tree companies.
Okay,
So we'll include the Christmas tree.
so this would include, okay, great, thank you.
But you don't need.
We don't need the same kind of tree, though.
Yeah, I mean, he's suggesting a new Christmas tree and probably knows exactly what's available. His son's in the business.
Right, right.
Yeah. so-
Right, and what would thrive down there.
Yeah, he's
So
gonna
you're-
make a recommendation on
Well, let's just give
the
it to me.
kind and the size that he has, and then he'll send it to the village.
Yeah, sounds good.
So what I'm saying is that the tree committee will tell me what they want down there.
Okay, yeah.
Well,
there's obviously.
his son may know better.
I understand that you can't pigeonhole that way.
Yeah,
If he can tell me what kind of tree he thinks should be down there, that's fine.
that's what he's gonna
I'll
include.
take that information. Don't give me any prices.
There are some disease-free,
Just tell me the
as much
type
as
of
they can
tree
be free.
that he thinks would thrive down
Yeah.
there. That's all. And then I'll send out the RFP and then he can bid on that.
Okay,
Okay?
very good.
Okey-dokey.
All I got.
Make a resolution to adjourn.
Second?
In favor?
Aye.
This is one.
Okay.
Aaron, you did it.
And
Oh, peaches and pine.
yeah, are.